Good morning, dear students. Welcome to the Garden School. So, we are moving to a new chapter. The name of the chapter is Around the World in 80 Days. It's a classic written by the French novelist Jules Verne. It's a story of two persons who are making a trip around the world in 80 days. Before we are moving to the explanation, we have an exercise. Look at the political map of the world. Imagine you have to go on a trip around the world in 80 days. So you can see the political map of the world and plan a trip around the world in 80 days. Which countries would you visit and why? So state the countries you are planning to visit and why, the reason you are visiting that country. You can see an area I would like to visit. Another column is there for writing the reasons. Do it and submit through Teams. Before the explanation, our portion is an extract from the novel Around the World in 80 Days. Moving to the reading passage, this is an extract from Around the World in 80 Days, a classic adventure novel written by French writer Jules Verne. It was published in the year 1873. So before going to the story, there's a part to understand what exactly happened, the reason behind the story. The story so far. The story begins on 2nd October 1972 in England. A wealthy Englishman called Phileas Fogg, who leads a lonely life, and his French manservant Jean Passepartout are at the Reform Club discussing the Bank of England robbery in which £55,000 were stolen. Fogg says that with advances in transportation, it is easy for the robber to get about quickly. In fact, he claims that he can get around the world in 80 days. The club members make a bet of £20,000 that he can't do it. Fogg accepts the bet, and that's how his epic journey starts. At 8:45 p.m. that night, Fogg and Passepartout set out from London by train on an adventure of a lifetime. However, Detective Fix from Scotland Yard believes that Fogg is a bank robber and follows them. The story begins just when Fogg and Passepartout are expected to land at Suez. So the reason behind the story, and it happened in the Reform Club. It started on 2nd of October 1872 and it was in England. In the Reform Club, the club members were discussing about the bank robbery of £55,000. So Phileas Fogg argued that because of the transportation advancement, the robber can easily move from the town. And there was an argument happened over there, and Phileas Fogg says, even I can travel around the world in 80 days. So the club members make a bet for £20,000 and they were against his claim. That is how the epic journey starts. At 8:45 p.m. that night, Fogg and Passepartout started their journey from London by a train, and at the same time, Detective from Scotland Yard, Mr. Fix, also, who believes that Fogg was a robber, and he also starts following them. The story begins just when Fogg and Passepartout are expected to land at Suez. Moving to the story, the steamer Mongolia, belonging to the Peninsular and Oriental Company, built of iron of 2,800 tons burden and 500 horsepower, was due at 11 o'clock a.m. on Wednesday, 9th October at Suez. The Mongolia piled regularly between Brindisi and Bombay via the Suez Canal and was one of the fastest steamers belonging to the company, always making more than 10 knots an hour between Brindisi and Suez and 9.5 between Suez and Bombay. So, in the first paragraph, the author is discussing about the power of the ship. The name of the steamer is Mongolia and it belongs to Peninsular and Oriental Company, built of iron, and the weight is 2,800 tons and with a powerful engine of 500 horsepower. And it is traveling between Brindisi, it's a city in southern Italy, and Bombay is the old name of Mumbai. And it is traveling regularly in this route. And the traveling route is via the Suez Canal. And the steamer Mongolia is considered as one of the fastest vessel of the company. Moving to the next paragraph, two men were promenading up and down the wharves among the crowd of natives and strangers who were sojourning at this straggling village. Now, thanks to the enterprise of M. Lesseps, a fast-growing town. One was a British consul at Suez, who, despite of prophecies of the English government and the unfavorable predictions of Stephenson, was in the habit of seeing from his office window English ships daily passing to and fro on the Great Canal, by which the old roundabout route from England to India by the Cape of Good Hope was abridged by at least a half. The other was a small, slight-built personage with a nervous, intelligent face and bright eyes peering out from under eyebrows which he was incessantly twitching. He was just now manifesting unmistakable signs of impatience, nervously pacing up and down and unable to stand still for a moment. This was Fix, one of the detectives who had been dispatched from England in search of the bank robber. It was his task to narrowly watch every passenger who arrived at Suez and to follow up all who seemed to be suspicious characters or bore a resemblance to the description of the criminal, which he had received 2 days before from the police headquarters at London. The detective was evidently inspired by the hope of obtaining a splendid reward which would be the price of success and awaited with a feverish impatience, easy to understand the arrival of the steamer Mongolia. Wharf is a place where ships are anchoring. Two men were waiting there. First one is the British consul at Suez, and the other one is Mr. Fix, who was a detective from the Scotland Yard. Both are waiting for the steamer Mongolia to come. So you say, consul, asked he for the 20th time, that this steamer is never behind time? No, Mr. Fix, replied the consul. She was bespoken yesterday at Port Said, and the rest of the way is of no account to such a craft. I repeat that the Mongolia has been in advance of the time required by the company's regulations and gained the price awarded for excess of speed. So the consul is 100% sure that the ship will arrive on time, and he is saying that Mongolia wins prizes for its speed several times. Does she come directly from Brindisi? Detective Fix is asking. Does Mongolia come directly from Brindisi? Directly from Brindisi. She takes on the Indian mails there, and she left there Saturday at 5 p.m. Have patience, Mr. Fix. She will not be late. But really, I don't see how, from the description you have, you will be able to recognize your man, even if he is on board the Mongolia. Because in Mongolia, many people were boarded, and the consul is telling it will be difficult for you to identify the person who you are looking for. A man rather feels the presence of these fellows, consul, than recognizes them. You must have a scent for them, and a scent is like sixth sense, which combines hearing, seeing, and smelling. I have arrested more than one of these gentlemen in my time. If my thief is on board, I will answer for it. He will not slip through my fingers. So, Detective Fix is really confident about capturing the thief. So, he is saying that if that person is boarded in the ship, 100%, he will find him out and arrest. I hope so, Mr. Fix, for it was a heavy robbery. A magnificent robbery, Consul, 55,000 pounds. We don't often have such windfalls. Burglars are getting to be so contemptible nowadays. A fellow gets hung for a handful of shillings. Detective Fix is telling the council that it's a magnificent robbery for 55,000 pounds. And the person is going to hang for handful of shillings, handful of money. Moving to the next paragraph. Mr. Fix, said the council, I like your way of talking and hope you will succeed. But I fear you will find it far from easy. Don't you see the description which you have there has a singular resemblance to an honest man? The council is supporting Detective Fix that he is wishing him all the best, but he is at the same time he is saying that the description belongs to a honest man. The man who Detective Fix is following is resembling to a honest man. Sometimes there will be a mistake in your prejudices. Counsel, remarked the detective dogmatically, great robbers always resemble honest folks. Fellows who have rascally faces have only one course to take, and that is to remain honest. Otherwise, they would be arrested offhand. The artistic thing is to unmask honest countenances. It is no light task, I admit, but a real art. Detective Fix is agreeing to counsel's statement that great robbers will resemble honest men, and it is my duty to unmask their countenances. Of course, it is not a light task, but it is an art. Mr. Fix evidently was not wanting in a tinge of self-conceit. Little by little, the scene on the quay became more animated. Sailors of various nations, merchants, shipbrokers, porters, fellahs, bustled to and fro as if the steamer were immediately expected. The weather was clear and slightly chilly. The minarets of the town loomed above the houses in the pale rays of the sun. A jetty pier, some 2,000 yards along, extended into the roadstead. A number of fishing smacks and coasting boats, some retaining the fantastic fashion of ancient galleys, were discernible on the Red Sea. Now the scenes in the wharf has changed a lot. Many sailors of various nations, merchants, shipbrokers, porters, fellahs, all expecting the immediate arrival of the ship. The weather was clear and slightly chilly. So the author is describing about the changes happened in the wharf and the weather. Dear students, we will discuss the second part in the next class. Till then, goodbye.